Hi, and welcome to the Go-To Girls with your hosts, Lisbeth and Lynn.
This isn't just another podcast for women. This is a gathering place where we're going to share, enlighten, and laugh together as we nurture and nourish deep friendships with our listeners.
Women need spaces where they can be authentic, honest, curious, and feel supported. This podcast will remind the listener that life is just beginning and there is so much out there waiting for us to experience.
And every week we will share more stories, we'll share knowledge and our dreams, and most importantly, our hearts with this Go-To Girls community.
So settle in wherever you are as we begin our conversation that is intended to inspire, enlighten, and fill your soul.
Good morning, Lynn. So great to be back here for another episode of Go-To Girls.
Good morning.
Good morning. So today we have an excellent topic that I know is really going to hit home for a lot of people, and that is the sandwich generation. And I'm going to pop you back a little bit further into maybe 10, 20 years ago when your son was still at home and you were dealing with both sides, both mom on one side and your son on the other side. Tell me a little bit about what that was like.
I'd say going back that far, my son would have been 19, 20 years old, still at home at that point. He was making decisions about where he wanted to go post high school.
Yeah.
I think the important thing that comes to mind about that time is that I tried to work throughout his, in other words, I sort of planned how I would be supporting him throughout his young life ahead of time.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time thinking about and working on creating an independent and person that wanted to launch himself and move on and get on with his own life at an early stage, having him have to work when he was young. Like when he was 16, he wanted to have a car at some point, so he was working at that time as part-time at a Canadian Tire store, actually.
Right.
And sort of trying to create work ethic. Like work ethic to me is a very important thing. And so even if I was having him do tasks or jobs or helping me somehow, work ethic was very important. So instilling that at a young age. And, just the basic things, being able to cook for yourself and sort of manage your life, learning about finances, that sort of thing. I think it's really important to help plan your children's ability to be able to become independent eventually by teaching them and instilling the important things that they'll need to do to be able to be independent at some point. So with my son, Alan, he fairly quickly, he actually started his own business at first. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do, so he started his own business. And again, it was, I didn't find it was a terribly difficult thing because he was quite independent fairly early on, and he ended up moving out fairly quickly to become his own person. So I didn't have a lot I didn't feel any real strong pressure or difficulty in my case with dealing with Alan. At that time, though, I still had my mom. She would have been late 70s, early 80s. And she was living in Brockville, quite a long way from me, but she was, again, quite independent. But I did the same thing with my mom really early on, actually, was I talked to my mom about how she saw her later years unfold.
Right.
So we talked about her finances, for example, how she was setting herself up financially for her future, and also with her health and looking after herself, and also her like what happens when you don't feel like you can live in a house anymore and you need to have more support. So I think, again, early planning was really helpful in our case. And in my mom's case, for example, she was very sort of financially astute because my dad had died many years ago. He had died in 1984, so she'd been without him for a long time already, and she was very competent with her own financial situation. But we went through things like I helped her get a will updated. I helped her get power of attorney for finance, for property, and for health. So she had to figure out who was going to help look after her for power of attorney purposes and how her will was going to be set up. And then just how she was investing her money. Fairly soon, when we started discussing this, she actually decided that she wanted to open up joint bank accounts. Like she had me added, made all of her accounts joint with me and all of her investments joint with my brothers and I together. Mm-hmm. So that when my mom did pass away, it was very simple for us because the bank account just rolled over into my name, and all her investments were cashed out and distributed evenly between my brothers and I, and so yeah. And then we talked about where she, how she would like to live. Would she want to go into a supported living apartment? Mm-hmm. Where would she like that to be? Because my at that time my other brother was still alive, so I had a brother in Kingston, a brother in Toronto, and me in the Burlington, Hamilton area. So we talked about where she might like to get an apartment, who would she like to be near, and all these things. So again, I feel like for me, because my son had already gone when my mom eventually did finally move with me, it was, I don't know as if I've ever been a complete sandwich. I was more of an open-faced sandwich. Like I had my son on one end and then my mom on the other.
Yeah, no, I definitely am a sandwich, and I'm still in a sandwich situation. So I have my mom, who my father passed away back in 2012. So my mom has lived alone for a number of years and did so very well. And then I decided in 2018 to move her out here to Burlington. Thank goodness, because then COVID hit. I don't even want to imagine, because she was living in Toronto, and my brother's up in the Halton Hills area. So, and I'm out in Burlington. And so it was a bit of a commute. And so I had suggested that she move out here, which she did. And now she's 5 minutes away from me. And, we never know how long we're going to live. But I will say my parents were very, very diligent about planning for their own future right to the end. And that has been extremely helpful. Neither my brother or I would have had to worry or set up or do anything about that, like right down to their funeral plots. Like they literally bought them 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they even bought enough that we can all, take a ride down if we don't have another place to go. So, that was very well thought out. And, but they still need services, right? As my mom ages, of course, she needs those extra support. So she stopped driving a few years ago. And so, I drive her around wherever she needs to go, because my parents were very good to take care of themselves financially. She does have a companion that comes in every day that they're able to pay for, which is fantastic. But, we still are there on hand. So I do all my mom's cooking, for example. Like I've cooked for her for the last couple of years, all of her dinners. And my brother has done and continues to do all of her finances. So like the bills even get sent to his home. So she doesn't have to even think or worry about that. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, on the other end, I have my two sons, and my older one has special needs. And so he's at home, and my younger son is desperately looking for an apprenticeship in the electrical field, which is turning out to be quite the ride. Apparently there's an abundance of them out there, so it's really hard, and we want him to be able to dedicate his time to doing exactly that. So I have two sons still at home. Mm-hmm. So we're really sandwiched in. Here's the beauty of it. I love family, and I don't know, I was telling Ed yesterday, I feel like I was born in the Mediterranean, because I really enjoy that multi-generational energy and everyone kind of being together. And like every night, we have dinner together, we play cards or play games, whatever games it is that we want to do. There's always somebody around to talk to or go for a walk with. I really enjoy it. I know a lot of people, can't wait for their kids to get out and can't wait to downsize and get away. Now, mind you, I wouldn't mind downsizing. That's one of my challenges, because I do have sons, is that I do too much of the cleaning. And I don't really need to have a 2-story home to to continue to maintain. That would be my only thing that I would absolutely love, is to move into a smaller space. But with both of them still home, it's just not applicable right now. And my husband just renovated the whole house beautifully, so we want to take some years and enjoy it here before we do exactly that. But that is the intention eventually. But I'm just saying, in the meantime, as much as I want my kids to launch, they're not kids anymore, they're in their 20s, both of them. But for me, it's like I always say, you're only young once, and you really got to find your way. I would hate to push them into something just to make some money and have to work hard, and then they don't get to do what it is they really wanted to do. And they've invested a lot of time into doing exactly that. But in the meantime, we so enjoy being at home together. I hope I speak for them as well. I think I do. But, and then, like I said, having my mom 5 minutes, I really appreciate the time that I'm getting with her. Every Wednesday I take her to knitting, and it's a beautiful knitting group over here at the senior center. And, she so looked forward to go, and all the women there. I'm telling you, whether it's snowing or raining, they're there. All the women, there's 27 of them.
Oh my goodness.
And they show up, because I'm always like, well, Mom, today maybe they're not going to be there because of the weather. I try and warn her so she doesn't get sad or disappointed. And then I get there, and all these women are there. It's incredible. So a little bit of the sandwich generation. I think the key is, I loved hearing about your process with your mom and how things were planned out. I like to say with my mom as well, things are planned out. I feel like that makes a huge difference. So if you're listening on this program and, you're going through those stages with your parents, a plan is key to have a smooth transition, right, Lynn?
Yes, yeah. And early planning, I have to stress, is really important.
So
because,
what is early planning? Can you just be a bit more specific?
Like for my mom and I, was me helping her. Like I said, I think she was in her late 70s or so. Like, she was still very healthy and vibrant,
right,
and very independent, but that can change, right? Like, my mom never did end up having any sort of memory issues or dementia, anything like that, which was a blessing, of course, but she could have. And I know people who have, a parent or both parents, where they don't approach the financial, let's say, side of things early enough, and then they dig in their heels. Like, I know someone whose dad, like, he will not let them even talk about his money. He won't share, and he won't let them help with bill payment, making sure everything's looked after. He won't help them he won't do a will. He won't do anything. Like, he's just, it's like, none of your business. It's my financial and money, and it's none of your business.
Really?
And then, as he ended up, eventually he did have quite severe Alzheimer's and dementia. There was a point where he had to go into a long-term care, or they had him put into a long-term care facility. And that was the first time they got to go digging for what was going on. And he hadn't paid his bills for, like, in some cases, months or even years, and he hadn't paid his income tax for, I think, 9 years. So they had to arrange for an accountant to go through everything and do all of his tax returns and submit them. And my mom knew someone in the same situation, and the person was constantly getting calls from the utilities. We're going to shut off your hydro. We're going to shut off your bell. They just wouldn't let anyone help. So that's a really tricky situation when you have a parent who feels strongly that what they do with their life, by financially, and even where they're going to live, that's just none of your business, and they don't want to talk about it. That's a tough situation to deal with.
Yeah.
Right?
No, absolutely. It is a tough situation. And you're trying to honor the parent and their wishes. At the same time, there is an awareness that you're going to have to deal with the fallout of that afterwards. And I have a friend of mine who his mom was very well prepared, but it was a more challenging, because there was Henson Fund involved, for people with disabilities and all of that. So because of that energy transfer, it became so difficult after to process. And so leaving people with that kind of a mess as an executor That is a huge challenge. That is a huge challenge. So that is kind of on the parental side. And if we go back to, maybe you have young kids living at home. I was watching a program on 60 Minutes from Australia, and it's a few months ago that I watched it, but I'm sure you could find it on YouTube. And it's about so many more parents have their kids home living with them in their 20s and sometimes even 30s because of the rising costs. For some, it was, separation or divorce, and they come back home, and in some cases with their kids. And this seems to be a lot more common today, where people simply cannot afford to have all of their own homes, and then they come back home and live. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and it's not even younger people that just couldn't sort of get rolling with building their own lives. It's also people who, like, maybe they got separated or divorced, and they might be in their 30s or 40s, and they're
That's
moving
what I
home.
mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not just the younger children that can end up living at home again, or still. I think the important thing in that case is having it's the open communication. Like, before you have like, whether you're going to have your children still living with you because they've never left home, or whether they're coming back, there really has to be a great open and honest conversation about how that's going to work. I agree with you. That whole idea of the multi-generational family appeals to me a lot too. Like, it's just lovely having your parents or parent around, and your 20, 30-year-old kids around. But there has to be a real discussion about their needs and your needs, and how are those two things going to be respected in the relationship. It can be things like, are you going to charge them rent, or are you going to charge them for food? Are they going to contribute with helping around? Are they going to have certain tasks or jobs that will be theirs? And with parents and so on, it might be, again, where and how they're going to live. How are you accommodating in the house? How do you maintain time for intimacy and privacy with your husband or wife? All these things. So just discussing. I think a lot of people just sort of fall into it, and they don't realize what it entails to be living with other adults.
Yeah.
And I really felt that it was important, like, before my mom did end up moving in with me, that we'd had this long conversation about how is that going to work. And with me, it was I was able to offer her a separate place in the house, like her own little kind of apartment.
Our separate place. It was a huge,
it was the bottom, actually the whole bottom
house.
floor of
Are
our
you
house.
kidding me?
But and she loved that.
It was a retreat.
Yeah, she was actually able to bring all of her own furniture. It was almost like I reset up her house our house.
I remember.
All her own couch and furniture and everything. And it was lovely to be able to have the ability to do that. But it could be, in some cases you might only be able to offer a room, right? But even if it's a room, like my mom, she had a kitchen area, but even if it's a room, like giving them the chance to have like a little microwave and a kettle, so they can maybe make their own, and a little bar fridge or something like that.
Right.
My mom really appreciated being able to be independent from the food wise, at least to a certain extent. Like, we agreed that she would always have dinner with us because we loved spending that time with her. We might have been busy working in the day and not be able to have lunch and breakfast anyway, but she loved her space that she could look after her own breakfast and lunch and making her own tea and all that sort of thing. And then we would come together as a family every night and have dinner. And sometimes she might help make certain things ahead of time to help us with the meal prep and that sort of thing. So, but that was something we agreed on initially. And she also said herself that she didn't want to have it feel like my husband Warren and I had her always there, like there was no kind of private time or quiet time for Warren and I. So she kept to herself and sort of had her own schedule of things she liked to do, or courses she was taking and that sort of thing. It was just this really nice flow of time together, yet time not, so that it was, I guess, more predictable for both of us, like for knowing when our together family time was and when it wasn't, because it allowed us to still each of us live more independently.
Yeah. And so I think it's important to talk about different family situations, because not all the time do people get along so well with each other, right?
Exactly.
And this is where it can be kind of a conflict. when you're not feeling your home is your sanctuary, when you're not feeling that you can totally let go and be yourself in your own home because there's a friction. It could be like an in-law, or maybe you and your adult child just don't get along, or they're not picking up the slack. They're just kind of taking advantage of you, and that
you have one or both parents that you're wanting to help and be there for, that you didn't have a great childhood with, like that
Right.
they didn't perhaps look after and care for you in a way that was healthy and balanced for you. So there might be, resentments and just a difficult personality to get along with.
Yeah.
And then you still want to be there, you still want to be helpful, but how do you look after a parent that you didn't have a good relationship with?
Yeah, like my suggestion around that is, I always say that whatever they did to you, and I put that in air quotation marks, is, and I'm not excusing it, I'm not justifying it, I'm just saying people are a product of what they experienced in their own childhoods.
Yeah.
And the way I always make peace with it is that you are breaking the generational chain of whatever you have been going through by giving love and compassion to that situation.
Yeah.
And what happens then is that you then don't carry that energy forward. They did this to me, and so therefore I don't owe them anything. I can just go in, because that's a lot of the mentality.
It is.
And in the short term, yeah, your life is a lot easier. But I do believe, and this is just my personal opinion, you may not agree with it, I just feel like there's a karmic chain happening.
Yeah. I agree, and I feel like that goes both ways. Like, I feel that our generation is healing our parents' generation, like
Right.
everything that's happened through our parents who grew up and were parents in a totally different set of circumstances than we are now.
Yeah.
And I feel like you say, with your attitude, you change your attitude towards them, and it's us healing that relationship from our past with our parents. And the other way, I feel like a lot of young people I know, like my son's age, in his 30s, I feel like he and his generation are also healing from our generation to his. Like,
Yeah.
it's really wonderful to see and feel how thoughtful they are about what they went through as children and how they were raised and how they're raising their children differently. And by that, I don't never feel like, I resent the fact that he's doing this differently than I did when I raised him. It's like, oh, that's so, and listening to his reasoning, it's a very beautiful feeling of this big healing. Like each generation's healing the last one. It's neat. Yeah.
No, it is really something. I know I feel it with my kids too, because like just a simple thing like playing cards or a game or whatever, I like to win. And my kids are so indifferent whether they win or lose, And my son says to me, "Mom, what's the big deal? As long as we're having fun, And it's not that I'm not having fun. I'm just engaged in, I would really like to win, and my kids could care less whether they win or lose. And then when I grew up, my father, like when we would play cards with my brother and this other gentleman, we bet, right? So my father would throw the change on the table, and, then we all bet money, and my brother and I, we would be so happy, like when we won at the end of the night. My kids have no interest in playing for money. Like, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, why do we have to play for money? Why can't we just play for fun? So it's like things like that, you just learn, and you're like, yeah, like why did we play for money? But it's just how it was back then. And I loved it. Like, I really enjoyed it. So it's not like it was a bad thing as far as I was concerned. Like, I was willing to do it with my kids, but like my kids just thought that was the craziest thing. It's just us four playing. Where's the money going anyway? Like, who cares, right? And so you just kind of wake up from that slumber and you realize, like, yeah, or if I would talk in a certain way, and Jeremy would, like, why do you have to yell? Like, why can't you just tell me? It's like, yeah, he's right. So there's been a lot of those shifts that I've seen where our kids really teach us, right? And I love that feeling of relaxation. I mean, Jesus, I teach, meditation, and I like to feel that I practice it a lot. But definitely with both my sons, I have learned to take that to another level and really also come into patience, right? Like really patience is key with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about, like with my mom, I think people can feel overwhelmed with, like say, like in my case, my mom had, not a lot of money by any means, but she'd invested, the last, 10, 15 years of her life well, and had a reasonable amount of money. So, and she wanted to use that money as part of her, well, first of all, she wanted to use some of it to travel. So she asked me to take her different places. Like we went back to England several times to visit family when her generation was still alive, like my aunts and uncles and stuff. And so I took her there, but we always did it. We went to England, but we always added on a side trip for like 4 or 5 days. So we went to Paris, we went to Dublin, went to Scotland and that sort of thing. So we always added a new little adventure on that sort of thing. So she had money that she wanted to use for travel, and then she had money that she wanted to make sure she kept a goodly amount of her savings for future care that she might need. Right. And so, it can be hard when you're working and you have your children of your own, and now you've got a parent that needs care. Like, say they've fallen, broke their hip, or they aren't able to, their mobility's been affected, or dementia, that sort of thing happening. So, knowing and looking in ahead of time, like again, just so that you don't get caught off guard, like plan, like what if my mom has this happen or that happen, what am I going to do? So looking into what kind of care is available, like near the end of my mom's life, Maria, of course, from Colombia, she'd come here as a young woman.
Hi, Maria. I know Maria. You're listening.
to work from her country of Colombia here in Canada as she was able it's the LMIA program with the government, where she could work either looking after an infant, helping to look after someone's infant, or look after their elderly family member. And so I ended up having Maria come to my house to help me with my mom. And it was nice like mom was very independent thinking, so it wasn't like she had to spend that much time entertaining or being with my mom. But it was such a big help because I was in the middle of starting that aquaponics facility, so busy. Just having Maria there to help clean the house and help prepare meals. And she, took a lot of the burden that normally fell on my shoulders and took it on to help us and get things for my mom or whatever. So she was such a blessing, and it was quite reasonable, the program, cost-wise. So it didn't cost my mom a lot of money to have that kind of help. But I have a friend has the same sort of program, a young woman from the Philippines, and my friend's wife has very severe dementia, but he just does not want to put her into a long-term care facility. He wants to let her be at home and die at home, basically. So he hired this young woman who lives with them, and his wife just loves her to bits. And this woman sings to her and plays with games with her and does things with her. It's so beautiful to see the relationship that's been sparked. Like, this woman doesn't know her husband or children. Like, she really has no recollection of who or anything is or where she is. But this relationship with this Filipino woman is so beautiful to see, because she just adores her. And it's taken, created a lot of relief for the rest of the family, knowing that she's got constant care and that she loves the person. So
this woman is in there 24/7?
Yeah, she lives it would be like Maria was with me. She lives with them, right?
Yeah, but she still needs time off. She still.
Oh, yes. Yeah. No, and obviously the husband and this woman's children spend lots of time with her as well.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
No, but she's going to have time off to go and do her own thing, of course. But on a, say during the work day time, at least, they know their mom's getting looked after well while they're busy working or looking after
I'm going to have
kids
to get the name of that, because my mom may need that in the future, right?
Yeah,
like,
but it's so lovely
because she wants to stay in her home as well.
Yeah. And I actually know several people who've had people from other countries actually move in with them and live with them.
Right.
And they get paid. They get a salary each week, and they get the room and board for free. And it's great. It was a super program. And I do know several people who've used it, and just delighted, like just so happy with the
Do you know the name of the program for our listeners?
I just know it. I've forgotten what the initials stand for. It's LMIA. It's a Canadian.
LMIA.
It's a
Well,
Canadian
they can look it
government program that you can basically hire someone from another country to come and live with you to care for your elderly loved one or an infant. I say they're allowed to do either or.
Okay.
It's like a work visa, but specifically for one of those two circumstances.
LMIA.
Yes.
Okay. Well, see, you learned something new today. I know
We
I
can
did.
always put it in the show notes. Like,
Oh, yeah. You do that, Lynn. We're waiting for you to write that down.
I'll look it up again.
Yes. No, that sounds good. That sounds good. Well, it has been an amazing conversation today. And I think it's such an important subject because I know a lot of people are living it right now on both sides. Some have an open face sandwich like yourself did for a few years. And other of us are full sandwiched right in between there. But loving it. I have to say, loving it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is it for today, but we will be back to you next week. So stay tuned and share. Bye-bye.